It's the title afterwards, I think. Right. Hello and welcome to the agenda on Politics Social. I'm Graham Hughes and I'm joined, as always, by Phil Moorhouse. How you doing, Phil? Are you all right?
Hello, I'm all right now that my internet is fine, yes.
Your internet
has
come back to life, which is always good. If you want to follow Phil on a different bias, the link to his channel is in the title of this video.
I got a shout out today, or it might have been yesterday, but I saw it today. Do you know who by?
Oh, go on.
Dale Vince.
Ooh, Dale's
I did a video.
Fan.
Well, I don't know about that. They obviously came across me because I did a video on his little court win. So yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, not so little. I mean, that was pretty good that he did that. But I just first of all want to just say a big shout out to Benjamin, MH Keir, Alex French, Chris C, Maggie Brinkley, and Jup James and UK Medsy. Good to see you all. If you'd like to join them in the chat, all you need to do is press the subscribe button, and you can join them in the discussion. So we couldn't go at 1 o'clock today because your internet router was down. Had a badger eaten it? Your badger's on the phone there or something?
No, well, that's because it's Alexander Graham Bell Day. Apparently.
Is it? Oh,
148
fantastic.
days today that he got the patent for the telephone.
He had a great middle name.
Probably one of the top 10 inventions since the Industrial Revolution, I guess. I think fairly certainly.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, probably. But we just had some news just before we came on. You said you gave it the wrong title.
Well, you probably gave it the wrong title anyway. If you did the top 10 news stories for today, Labour's budgeting would probably be number 11.
Well, I was trying to think of something that was like UK-centric, because obviously this is supposed to be a UK-centric show talk about UK politics. But we can, because Rupert Lowe of the Refuck Party has been fired, sacked, imprisoned. What's happening, Phil? Fill us in, Phil.
So, Reform UK have issued a statement alleging that Rupert Lowe, there's been complaints of Rupert Lowe. In fact, I'll just read it out. Do you know what? Short enough. Rupert Lowe's response is much longer. It is with regret. This is signed by Lee Anderson and Zia Yusuf, by the way. Zia Yusuf is the party chair. Lee Anderson is the chief whip. It is with regret that we feel obligated to disclose that the party received complaints from 2 female employees about serious bullying in the offices of the Member of Parliament for Great Yarmouth, Rupert Lowe. One worked in his parliamentary office, the other in his constituency office. We understand complaints have been made to parliamentary authorities. Evidence was provided to us of workplace bullying, the targeting of female staff who raised concerns, and evidence of derogatory and discriminatory remarks made about women, including references to a perceived disability. We feel we have a duty of care to all our staff, whether employed directly or indirectly, yada, yada, yada. Accordingly, we appointed an independent King's Counsel to conduct an investigation into the veracity of these complaints. To date, Mr. Lowe has yet to cooperate with this investigation. In addition to these allegations of a disturbing pattern of behaviour, Mr. Lowe has on at least 2 occasions made threats of physical violence against our party chairman. Accordingly, this matter is with the police.
Bloody hell!
Just
the chairman
as a pure.
Sorry, is the chairman is that Leanderthal?
Zia Yusuf. No.
Oh.
Leanderthal is the chief whip. Zia Yusuf is the chairman.
Okay.
So, if he made physical threats to Lee Anderson, he'd probably deck him. He's hit people for less. So, I mean, the timing of it is interesting because Rupert Lowe, I mean, he got sort of, he was set up by the Daily Mail, really, but he should have known better. So he was interviewed by the Daily Mail. He went, "Oh, what would you do if you were in charge, Rupert?" And then they presented this interview as the Elon Musk backed Rupert Lowe. This is because at the beginning of the year, when Nigel Farage was disparaging Tommy Robinson and supporters whom Elon Musk supports, Elon Musk famously, of course, tweeted that Nigel Farage isn't up to the job of leading. So then some people went, "Oh, well, who should it be then?" Do you think Rupert Lowe and Elon Musk seem to sound positive about that? Elon Musk doesn't know who Rupert Lowe is. He doesn't even know who Nigel Farage is. So he will have just been, stirring.
It's been told to say things by Dominic Cummings, apparently.
Well, so we're told.
Hence
Who
Jess
knows?
Phillips and stuff like that. He wouldn't know.
But but anyway, so there was a suggestion actually that it's not Dominic Cummings but Boris Johnson. Doesn't matter; it could be either of them. But the long and the short of it is that Rupert Lowe has criticised the way that Nigel Farage is leading Reform UK. Actually, the criticism is fairly valid, but nonetheless, it's very stupid to do it in public. And he's trying to suggest that he's made these criticisms for months and has got nowhere. He's been frozen out of meetings, all the usual belly aching that you get in politics.
Yeah,
and we've now got this. So there's like three possibilities, really, isn't there? First, that as Rupert Lowe claims, which I can go over some of his claims in a moment, that the allegations are completely fabricated, and it's just a stitch up because he's criticised the Messiah. That would seem high risk to me. Like, if you would hold an internal investigation can be stitched up. A police investigation can't. So to me, and also they claim that allegations have been made to the parliamentary authorities. So again, that seems high risk to involve unbiased investigators if there's nothing to the claim. So that seems unlikely. The second possibility is that all these allegations were made literally in the last 48 hours, which seems unlikely. So the third possibility is the allegations had been made over a period of time and Reform UK had been sitting on them, not necessarily corruptly. I mean, it's not the thing you shout at. As long as the process has been followed, you don't have to shout it out to the public. Yeah. But they've decided to now shout it out to the public because Rupert Lowe has had the absolute nerve not to grovel before the king. Those are your three possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah, but getting the police involved, it's not just a rap on the knuckles, is it? That's like...
No, this is what I mean. It's high. So that suggests to me that the allegations might be valid. Yeah. Even though Rupert Lowe claims in his very lengthy response, he says he's cooperated and has spoken at length with the KC they instructed at great cost to the party to investigate a minor staff matter. I have just spoken to the KC. She is dismayed that this statement has been made and reiterated that no evidence against me has been sent to her.
Wow.
But I mean, that again, I keep coming back to the point where allegations being referred to the police and the parliamentary authorities is very, very high risk if you're just making them up.
Yeah.
So I'm inclined to say...
So what's going to be the result of this? Has he been kicked out of Refuck? Are they down to 4 MPs?
I don't know. It was quite funny this morning. They haven't said so in their letter, but I was just saying this morning, the way things are going, they've been trying to get... They want to pressure Tory MPs to defect to them, saying, "Oh, you'll win our seat if you defect to us." That's what they've done with their council. Remember, most Reform UK councillors didn't win their seats as a Reform UK candidate. They won it as a Conservative or Independent, and defected to Reform UK.
Because they're defective. See what I did there?
I'm just trying to look on the parliamentary side. We may have had the whip removed. Let me just check something. Hold on.
Okay. You're going off the edge of the frame there, by the way.
Sorry, I'm clicking on things.
You've got this huge badger who's like taking up all the space.
I'm just trying to see where I'm just looking at someone who I know has a party whip. I've looked. Yeah, so if I look up on just to make sure I'm getting this right. So, for example, I look up Jess Phillips, and on the Parliament website, she's described Jess Phillips is the Labour MP for Birmingham Yardley. For Rupert Lowe, it says Rupert Lowe is the Reform UK MP for Great Yarmouth. So, if he has lost the whip, the process hasn't got through to the parliamentary authorities yet because the website still describes the Reform UK MP. But Reform UK haven't said he's had the whip removed, even though it seems really weird because every other party, even the Conservatives, if the police are investigating you, you tend to lose the whip.
Yes.
Except that, well, the Tories sometimes try and cover it up. But once you've been named, they have no option but to remove the whip. This would be weird if Reform UK have referred one of their own MPs to the police and have not removed the whip. That is just amateur hour on a whole other level.
But then, they've got a whip, but they can't get all their MPs to vote the same way. And there's only like...
Yeah, because Lee Anderson's an idiot. Like, no part... I know they've only got 5.
Turn up to a vote.
I know they only had 3 choices for Chief Whip because Nigel Farage is the leader, Richard Tice is the deputy leader. So they had 3 choices for the Chief Whip. It wasn't a great pick. But a serious party does not pick Lee Anderson.
No, well, they're not.
Even in a choice of 3. No.
Well, the Tories had him as the deputy chairman, didn't they?
Yeah, but they have like 6 of them. Yeah. And it's not a government position.
So if this goes ahead, I assume that it will lead to an investigation by Parliament, parliamentary suspension.
Well, they say
6 weeks, recall petition.
Well, we don't know what the nature of it is. They've just said, we literally don't know anything about it. It's probably quite difficult to prove the allegations of physical threats to Zia Yusuf unless there were witnesses.
Yeah.
I'm just saying if they Reform UK... no, so they haven't said anything about removing the whip.
Okay. We will see. Fingers crossed. Well, let's talk about what we was going to talk about today, which is Labour and the fact that they're 10 billion headspace, 10 billion pounds of leeway,
headroom,
gone. Headroom, that's the word. Labour has to make cuts, and or here's an idea: why don't you just put a 2% tax on everyone earning over 10 million pound a year?
There are things that may be, well, certainly there will be taxes she could levy.
Let's call it the Patriot tax.
Yeah. The problem really is, in a lot of cases, if you tax people who earn a lot, they just move the money. It's like there was a time when we used to, and like other countries, even the Americans used to tax the rich properly.
Yeah.
95% tax rate on, very high levels of income. But that was because it was a bastard to move money. Whereas now it's a click of a button. Like I keep saying, I set up an investment ISA the other week, well, in January, as it happens. Used to need like a stockbroker to invest in stocks and shares. Now you don't. You need a mouse. That's all you need. So if you're very, very wealthy, moving your money outside of the UK jurisdiction is just a piece of piss. And the problem, and this is always the argument. Now, to what extent it would actually happen is always a bit of speculation.
They all move?
It doesn't matter. But it doesn't matter. They don't all have to move it. The argument is, and it is genuinely a very difficult balance argument. So if they move that money, it's not just that you don't get the 2%. You also don't get the 45%. So if enough move it, you actually end up making less in tax revenues. And that is the difficulty of it. This is why I want land tax reform, because you can't move land with the click of a mouse.
Yeah, property.
You can move money because money doesn't really exist.
Yeah. This is what a lot of economists are calling for, isn't it? Left-wing economists are saying we need
because
land tax.
That's what you need, because they understand this waving your hand and talk for taxes on the rich. There are inevitably some taxes on the rich that probably Reeves should have been pursuing. But in every single case, it's easy to say, and everyone who says we should do it, it'll raise this amount, they're always basing it on the declared wealth and the declared incomes right now. But people are only declaring them because at the moment they're comfortable with the level of tax. If they're not, they will move it. And there is a risk that it could end up with actually less tax, and then so ironically, by levying taxes on the rich, you could end up bringing in less tax. That's the problem. Yeah. Because money is too easy to move around.
Okay, but then go for no representation without taxation. Take the passports off them. Oh, you got your money in Monaco, so you live in Monaco.
Well, I would love that. I mean, that's what we actually need. If you're going to start talking about taxing wealth or taxing high incomes, what you need to do first is to make sure, do what America do and say we don't care where it is. If you're based in the UK or you are a UK citizen,
Yeah.
you will still be paying. Now we could do that. That would be a huge reform to the tax system, which no doubt would face a lot of opposition from people, but not.
Got a 200
so
seat
I'd be happy
majority,
with that.
Phil. Do it.
Yeah, but well, at the moment they're stuck on this promise not to raise taxes further. I think they could have got away with. It was before Trump.
I think they can get away with anything now. Just say, look, it's either we cut benefits for the neediest.
Well, that's
people
another
in
thing.
society,
We don't know
or
they're going to
we
cut
raise
benefits
tax.
at all. We don't know that.
Okay, well, let's get into this,
And
because that's what they're saying in the tabloids. She's going to have to make cuts. She's going to have to make 1 billion, 2 billion, 5 billion pounds worth of cuts.
What I would say on that is I do think people who are fearing something here have probably got more credibility in doing so this time. But I'm just going to point out all the people, I mean, it's not just the tabloids, it's just commentators, everyone, literally every single person today who's saying that Labour are going to cut benefits are the exact same people who said that Labour were watering down their employment rights bill, and yet the final version has been revealed this week, and actually it's got stronger. It's actually
so
stronger.
you're saying just keep the faith.
I don't ever know, because there's too many people are dependent on it. What I'm saying is there is some extra credibility here, because first we know that Liz Kendall is desperately trying to make this will be on Reeves, by the way, not Liz Kendall if it happens. Liz Kendall is desperately trying to make the argument that the best way to cut benefits over a period of years is to help people get into work. It is not to squeeze people who need. Because remember, when we talk about benefits, we're not talking. People keep thinking that we mean unemployment benefits. We're not talking about that. The vast majority of people who have benefits, it's in work benefits to actually help like PIP, to help overcome barriers to work. If you cut that, you raise barriers to getting into work.
Yeah.
So Liz Kendall is desperately trying to argue this case. However, and this is why it's a little bit more credible this time. It is known that the OBR are not really likely to buy the argument that if we can help more people into work, it will do X, Y, and Z, because they need to see a clear chain. I mean, what I would like, and I'm not an economist, but I would like some sort of system that basically says, look, we think helping people into work by doing this and this and this will actually, it means over the period of this 5 years, we can make the cuts. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this, and then if it doesn't work in 2 years' time, we will have to make these cuts.
Yeah.
The problem is that those cuts would then have to be quite savage if it goes badly wrong. So there is more credibility here. And then I also saw the comment that some Labour strategists think, oh, this will be a good way to get hold, to appeal to those people on the right who are sort of backing Reform UK. And it's but my argument to that, first of all, that's only some Labour strategists. That's not some ministers who said so. And it's not all Labour strategists. But my argument with that one would be, so first of all, Labour strategists always represent a range of views, and it doesn't necessarily mean that, you don't know which one's been taken seriously. But I would argue you'd have to be quite far to the right for that sort of thing to appeal to you.
I mean,
so they're probably not the voters you need to try and win back.
Yeah, the people who voted for Labour last year, none of them want the benefits to be cut.
Well, we don't know that, but at the same time, it's
if that's the sort of thing they like, they would have voted for the Tories or Reeves.
Well, it depends, because they may have voted for Labour on the basis that the Tories had definitely failed, and the Reform UK would not form a government. But it would be a very small number.
Yeah, exactly. Chris C says, why doesn't Labour do what they did in 1945-46, apply a 50% tax on all income on investments over 10k, give HMRC the powers to look into the wealthy's bank accounts, just like they're doing with the DWP.
They're not doing with the DWP. That's a complete. I don't know where people are getting this. Well, I do know where they're getting it from. That's completely wrong.
Tony says Gary Stevenson's assets tax would be much easier. You can't move or hide shares of UK business or land. We're talking about land tax again.
Yeah.
Blue Badger 88 is talking about the former Liverpool mayor charged with bribery.
Oh, yeah,
and
I've seen
corruption.
that.
It's a story close to my heart. So, or my arse. Both Joe Anderson, from Lee Anderson to Joe Anderson, who is, we call him Chippy Tits, and also Derek Hatton, Degsy,
Yeah.
Gobshite, the guy who basically ruined the Liverpool City Council back in the 1980s. We actually Labour lost control of the Liverpool City Council for 13 years, from 1997 to 2010, as a result of his actions. Notoriously corrupt. We all knew he was corrupt at the time. A real stain on Labour. He was part of the militant faction within Labour, which helped keep them out of power while Thatcher was in charge. Helped them lose the 1992 election, arguably. And finally, shit's caught up with them, and they've both been done for bribery, racketeering, being gangsters.
It's a problem when you have a party that's too secure. You will inevitably get corruption, because what happens is, like, if you think about constituencies, in a marginal constituency, there's a strong motivation to, say, pick a candidate who will be good at campaigning because it's in the balance. Whereas if it's a seat that you're going to win all day long, put the right colour rosette on a pig and you will still win, then it's less important to get a candidate who is good at campaigning, and more important that you get one who's mates with you or is on your wavelength or something like that. So in a situation like that, the candidates are not chosen they're not chosen with any thought for the electorate. Yeah. They're chosen with, like, the internal interests of a small group of people who decide who wins. And that opens itself up to corruption. When it's too easy to win elections, you end up with corrupt people. Because people who are corrupt are naturally drawn to situations like that, because all they have to do is win over a relatively small number of people and they get power.
Yeah. Anne Phillips says, I vaguely remember Derek Hatton. He gave the Tories a great excuse to hammer local authorities. That he did. They borrowed a lot of money from Japanese banks, and for many years, Liverpool had the highest rate of council tax in the country. The mess they made of the council was just off the charts, and then they got back in 2010 under Joe Anderson, and he was an absolute crook. So this came down to there was a flyover in the city centre that needed to be removed, and who got the contract to remove it? I think it was like his son, or maybe even better, his nephew's demolition firm that didn't do a very good job. They left the ramps on there, they did half the job and pocketed a lot of cash. And there was smacks of nepotism.
There was a similar situation in Doncaster around about the same time. This was in the 90s. We had Donnygate. Same thing.
Oh, that sounds really cute.
It's a council that had just been Labour and was always going to be Labour. So inevitably, you get crooks, because all they have to do is persuade the people who appoint candidates. You don't have to persuade the public, because they're just going to blindly vote for that party anyway. So you will always get, and councils it's really easy to corrupt a council because there's way less scrutiny. Like, local journalists are not necessarily the best equipped to do that. Some of them, you just buy them off. You buy them off with a few beers, and they won't even bother.
Labour should be all over this. You know what I mean? Like, the thing is with Joe Anderson, though, this all happened while the leadership of Labour were in turmoil in London. So I guess they just weren't paying attention to what was going on up in Liverpool. They're just like leaving them to it, and they have set up a situation now where people might split their vote again in the upcoming local elections. People voted definitely in 1997 for Labour nationally, but voted for the Lib Dems locally. I did. In the first local election I voted for Lib Dems. I didn't vote for Labour because of Derek Hatton and because of the damage that they had done. I wanted Labour to be in nationally, but I didn't want them in. I didn't want that particular section of Labour. And I know they got rid of Hatton and all that lot, but there are a few people in Liverpool that get involved in local politics who are very gobby. A gobby scouser, that never happens. But yeah, they don't necessarily go into politics for the right reasons. Put it that way.
politics attracts corrupt people. And it's silly to imagine that they're only going to join the Tory party. They will join whichever party. Like if you're in Liverpool, you don't join the Tory party for power.
No,
You know,
no.
so you will join whichever party can get you power if you're corrupt.
Yeah. We've got a super chat come in from One Angry Pagan. Thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Lord Keynes had the right idea. FDR thought so too. I guess you're talking about Keynesian economics. And it was asked about the investment tax. What Chris is saying, why can't Labour introduce a 50% tax on investments?
I don't know. You'd have to ask someone who's more expert than me. I've not seen the only serious discussions I've seen from economists, because I'm very wary of saying, oh, you should just do this, because there's so many people who just go, oh, just tax this thing, as if there's money there to tax. But like I say, you just move the money. Money's so easy to move because it's just numbers on an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You just move it to a different area, different spreadsheet. And I know how easy it is to move my money. Whereas if you're very, very rich and you've got people employed who are very good at finding loopholes, you will move it really quite quickly.
But it is very frustrating.
It's incredibly frustrating.
I think it's Gary Stevenson who mentioned this in an interview recently. He said, look, on the work that you do with your hands, you get taxed on that at a quite high level. The work that your money does on your behalf, you don't even have to get out of bed.
No, exactly.
You just sit on the couch and play PlayStation. The money that is making gets taxed on a much lower rate. The money that your money is making.
It's like, and you think about likes of Jacob Rees-Mogg, he makes his money from investments, and he takes an interest. So he does take an interest in investment, but he's not doing it. Someone else is doing it for him.
Yeah.
So like he is earning millions of pounds and he's not doing anything with it. He was given the capital to then use for investing. And he is not even the one doing the investing. So I absolutely, agree. It's incredibly frustrating. But Alex just said, Labour open up the land registry, LVT said. So the thing with land tax, of course, is it would take years to get it right. Because, you'd be talking about such a reform. You get it slightly wrong and the whole thing will be tits up. So you have to get it right. So I can appreciate how it would take years. Mm. But at the same time, I also see, I see no... there's no part of me that's thinking, oh, well, maybe Rachel Reeves is thinking of that for the next Parliament, because I see no reason to keep your powder dry on it, because nothing can go wrong with announcing it early, because you can't do anything. You can sell the land.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't sell the land until the taxes were imminent. You wouldn't need to. So, but all you could do is sell the land will still be there. Sometimes warning about, what you're going to do with money, but at the same time, people still get notice. You always give people at least a few weeks' notice. Like Rachel Reeves is going to have to announce her updated budget this month. I don't know if there's a date been slated for it, but it's got to be this month. And but yeah,
what I often think for land tax though, I mean, it is a bit inherently unfair. Because I live in a city, I don't need that much land. Whereas if you're a farmer, to do your job, you need loads of land.
Yeah, you wouldn't set a rate per acre. You would set, you can easily organise it. So you can set a rate along a whole series of metrics, including how usefully the land is being used. You could actually set a zero rate or a very low rate on farmland, or land that's being developed for housing. Would this
be a tax that you'd have to pay every year because you have X amount of land?
Why not? Yeah.
Okay.
So
usually it's only when it changes hands, either being sold or someone dies.
This would be like council tax, except for all land. And you could replace council tax. You could literally get rid of council tax and say, this is the money for councils.
Right.
So, that you could cut out central funding for councils altogether and say this is, and that way if a council wanted to give an exemption for like some local rich bastard with a grouse moor that's wasting everyone's time in land, if they want to give them like a low rate for it, that's fine, but you work out to pay for your services yourself then.
Right.
But you could easily base it on just value. And when people are saying things like, oh, but then it took, ages to work out. That's why the council tax rates have never changed, because it was, you
Well, it was
have
like
to
the
value
90s,
every
wasn't it?
property and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to
90s.
value it all. Whereas economists are saying, yes, but with AI, you can now do that really quickly and easily and accurately. So it's not a big job anymore.
Fairly accurately.
It's accurately enough. So so there's no problem with that. You can easily come up with one where you have different rates according to its use. So the more usefully the land is used, the lower the rate. All you have to do is make sure it all adds up to the money you need, because that's what that's the whole point of taxation. That's what Rachel Reeves is doing at the moment. This is the money I need, and this is how I need to raise what I need. The only problem is that Reeves has Labour in general have constrained themselves with having to limit taxes because the tax rate is already really high.
Do you think this is, yeah, I get that, but do you think that this is like extenuating circumstances? I mean, China's gearing up for war. Canada's gearing up for war. Poland's gearing up for wars.
Trump has just threatened to invade Canada today or yesterday.
Again.
So, he had a phone call with Trudeau, didn't go very well, and he basically suggested that they should redo the free trade agreement because the boundaries don't seem quite right. He means literally the boundaries between the United States and Canada.
Holy shit.
He sort of thinks that some Canadian territory and he's obviously threatened to invade Greenland again this week.
He wants the Arctic.
So he wants Greenland, he wants bits of Canada, he wants Gaza, which is actually not near he wants the Panama Canal.
Yeah.
So far, that's his. Apparently, he also wants the Nobel Peace Prize, but I don't think that's really consistent.
That's going to happen anytime soon. We've got a massive super chat coming in from Optimistic Nihilist. Thank you very much for the £10 super chat. There were 4 forces driving democratic decline, which prevents Labour from doing more: citizen alienization, social atomization, algorithmic filtering, social media, and diversity identity politics. Divisive identity politics. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, identity politics. I think that's not a helpful term, because we have all, I mean, the vast majority of us are feeling the pinch at the moment, and we're all concerned about what's happening, and people are, genuinely worried about what the future holds. And I can see why people who are on benefits are concerned, and it pisses me off when we talk about this, but we don't have any definite answers for people, because Labour won't give us a straight fucking answer. And I think it's quite irresponsible of them to do that to people and make people worry, make people who are off work with stress more stressed.
Exactly. It's not helping. And this is the argument Liz Kendall is trying to make, that the single best way to get, the economy needs people to get into work, because we have too many jobs and not enough people, at the same time as we have a situation where Labour feel they have to sound as if although they're not talking about caps on immigration, they have to sort of say, oh yeah, immigration's too high. So they can't see immigration as the solution. Yeah. So in fact, they need to be able to claim that they're reducing it. So in a situation where we've got a declining birth rate, that's been the case for some time now. So we've got an actual declining domestic, homegrown native population. We've got more jobs that need doing, and we're wanting to reduce immigration. You need to help the people who are potentially available for work, help them reduce those barriers to work. And that's Liz Kendall's argument. And it's not to take short-term views because if they do squeeze benefits, even by making it harder, it doesn't necessarily mean cutting the amount you get. It could just be making it harder to get them, which means denying some people altogether. And if you do anything like that, you are actually storing up economic problems for later, which is why I hope that all of this is just based on, because you can easily have a drink with someone who's a Labour strategist and they say this thing, oh, Labour are thinking about doing this. Like I said, it's the same people who said that about the Workers' Rights Bill, which actually got stronger, not weaker.
Yeah.
At the same time, I do worry that there might be more in this. Like, if Rachel Reeves's headroom has just gone, she doesn't have to change very much compared with what was announced in October.
Mm.
If we mean, and I don't know the answer to it, if what we mean is it's gone and into negative territory, then she does. Um, and that means she has to, it's not a cut as it, because there's two types of cut. There's the cut, a literal cut would be a cut in spending compared with what we're spending now. What we're probably talking is just a cut on what she announced in October, but that was money that hadn't been spent. So that was a spending plan. So she may be making her spending plan smaller, but I don't know by how much. I mean, I've heard all sorts of things. I think someone mentioned in the comments earlier on. There was also talk about cutting some of the budget for GB Energy, which already had its budget cut in the last year before the election.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't be good news either. But there are no easy answers. But,
Well,
you
no,
know,
there aren't,
but I would rather just wait to find out what a minister has said,
yeah.
even if they're just hinting or something like that, rather than a report in the Times, which was the same report that said that they were watering down the Employment Right Bill when they absolutely did not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we need to move on and talk a little bit about the international situation and Starmer's position, Labour's position, the UK's position.
Chris saying they're 4 million out of work. That's not true. Sorry, you're completely wrong about that. I don't know where you got that figure from. So if you're, I don't know where that figure's come from. I can imagine it may have come from, you've worked out how many people of working age there are, how many people are employed and taken one from the other. But you've got to remember there are some people who are students and there are some people who've retired early. Those are people who are not available for the workforce. There are also some people on long-term sick. That might be a different thing. There are not 4 million unemployed.
Yeah. So what?
I can have a look how many there are, but you know, it's not 4 million. Yeah, go on, sorry.
1.75 million
Sounds more like
claiming unemployment benefits at the moment.
Yeah. So there you go. Like, and also in terms of the jobs vacancies, you say, how does it work out? You've got to remember as well that not all job vacancies are on the official record too. The main reason why anyone is unemployed is due to some barrier to work. So it will either be illness that's not getting treated. It'll be a disability for which there isn't enough provision for the work they can do, or it'll be a skills issue, or it'll be a childcare issue or something like that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there are some parts of the country where you really do have depressed economies and there's not that many jobs. But in lots of parts of the country, the jobs are there. There are just too many barriers to people taking them, which is, again, Liz Kendall's argument that, you know, if she has to announce something shitty, this will be on Reeves, not her, because she is desperately trying to argue that it's short-sighted to squeeze people, to basically put more barriers in people's way of getting work.
Just before we go on, I just want to ask you a question. Right. So if Lee Anderson and Derek Hatton have been done for corruption, right?
Joe Anderson.
Joe Anderson, sorry. How come Boris Johnson hasn't been done, and Dominic Cummings and Matt Hancock and
precisely?
I mean, surely the same rules that are.
We will know how it works. Did those two go to Eton?
Yeah, well, Cummings
maybe after, I don't know, maybe in the future after the COVID inquiry, but I never hold out any hope that people like that face justice. Every now and then someone does. I mean, when I was young, I remember Jonathan Aitken and Jeffrey Archer going to prison. Occasionally it happens, not very often.
Great days. Optimistic nihilist says, roughly speaking, 27% of students, 26% are long-term sick, 22% are carers, 13% are retired, and as for the remaining 12, there are huge barriers to fill those roles systemically. Optimistic nihilist was just talking about identity politics earlier, ideologies of self-realization which center political opinions as moralization and identity divorced from and toxic to solidarity among citizens. So I see what you mean by that. But it's usually a cudgel used by the right to bash people over the head.
It can be used to both left and right. It's people who, when they're young, they see a thing, and some people, it may be genuine. They may see a genuine injustice and they go, okay, well, this is the way to deal with it. And they never revise their opinion. So what their politics becomes, it becomes a religion to them later in life. and they don't ever adapt their thinking to a different situation or new information, which means you then get this situation. You've got it on the left just as much as the right. It's just that the right is more of a threat because they're more organized. But it's this feeling that you have to do it in exactly this way because this is the solution, even though it's a solution that might have worked 40 years ago and doesn't anymore. But no, this is what we must do. And the reason why they can't ever review that situation is that view is because anyone within that little clique who deviates slightly is a traitor and they must be expelled forthwith. So then you get the peer pressure on this and the echo chamber, because you then don't trust anyone who's outside of this echo chamber, and it all ends up in a right old mess, and you don't actually help anyone. You just end up attacking people who are closer to you. And you know, the right do it as well.
The tyranny of small
I don't
differences.
mind it when the right have been fighting. I don't mind it when the right wing fight. So that's my. No,
I mean, I feel the same way. I mean, I try not to, you know, get too hung up on the past and things like that. And I should, you know, when people who voted for Brexit want to say, yeah, okay, messed up there, you know, I'm happy to work with them. But it's just. I find there's a lot of people who will go, but you said this back in 2005, or I found this a lot in the 2019 election. There were a lot of people who were supposed to be pushing for Labour to win, and all they did was go on about Tony Blair all the time. Like he was, it wasn't an election against Tony Blair. It was an election against fucking Boris Johnson or the Lib Dems.
Yeah, and it is, and it's the problem. I mean, I've been on this like losing side all my life, and the problem is you've got this group of people we are too like people. I don't know. People on the left think that they're part of this huge mainstream crowd. You're really not, and you're part of this small group. We don't have the money, we don't have the media representation, so all we have is physical numbers. And the brightest minds on the far left, I'll say far left rather than hard left, even though most of them tend to be hard left. The brightest minds on the far left thinks that the genius plan, when you don't have the money, you don't have the media representation, all you can possibly have is numbers, is to make their numbers as small as possible.
Yeah.
It's like, how does that just, as someone who's played strategy games a lot in my life, it messes my head up and I can't get my head around it. It's like, how is that supposed to work? How is it supposed to work? It's not. It's a nonsense. And it's, you know, and I mean, you know, on my channel, for example, I don't do videos slagging off the Green Party or Owen Jones or anyone like that. You know, I spend it
I've done a video slagging off Owen Jones when I did Daily Fail, but I slagged off loads of people. I slagged off David Lammy. I slagged off Starmer at one point, I think, you know, because he did something fucking stupid, but it wasn't something where I'm like...
I will criticise the people who are in charge of the Labour Party because, you know, they get things wrong and I don't want them to get things wrong. So I feel that's constructive criticism. I don't slag off people who I see as a problem on the left because at the end of the day, they're sort of on my side. I just don't think they're particularly helpful. The people I slag off very consciously are the people who actually want to create a Britain that's very bad.
Yeah.
You know, so the way I view some people on the left is not that they're bad people or they want bad outcomes. It's that they are strategically inept or grifters. They could be grifters.
But I mean, if you're going to be a grifter, Phil, don't be a left-wing grifter. There's no money in it, mate. Be a right-wing grifter.
Well, there can be money
in it.
You'll
be a millionaire by the end of
there
the
can
month.
be money in it, but the right, it is easier on the right wing.
I mean, like
easier. I say, at the moment,
a column
on
in the
YouTube, there are several far-right commentators. They're getting hundreds of thousands of views a video easy. And you look at some of them, like some videos that get hundreds of thousands of views on politics. And you can look at them and they're very carefully crafted and you can see a lot of work went into them, stuff like, you know, Jimmy the Giant and type people. And then you look at some of these things from the far right, because every now and then I have to dip my toes into the cesspit. And you look at them and you're just thinking, you spent no time at all preparing this video. You're just talking bollocks for a few minutes. You've put less effort into this than I do in mine.
Yeah.
And I don't put anywhere near like Jimmy the Giant. I mean, there's a reason I do 3 a day, he does 3 a month. but it's just, they just tap into it. If
Yeah.
you're on the far right, it's easier to tap it because you're deliberately provoking anger, and like emotion drives these things. So someone basically saying, let's have a reasoned argument or a reasoned discussion. That's not great for the clicks.
No.
I'll tell you something that
Phil,
was
stop
interesting.
being so reasonable.
I'll tell you something that was interesting. I had my little call with my YouTube handler this week. And
YouTube handler.
so I don't know how long that's going to go on. I always find
have
it
on their
interesting.
business card that they're a Phil Wrangler.
Yeah, but
Calls the Phils.
so do you get demonetized much these days?
Me, not as much as I used to. No. I used
So
to get every video, every single live video, I would have to appeal.
So
now it's only really if I drop the C.
I almost never get demonetized. Like
Or
it happens once every few months.
The F bomb, and not the one you're thinking of, the cigarette one. If someone refers to a cigarette with the F word, then
I've done that before. I've done it once, and that was never again.
Don't talk about
Which is really weird because it's not. It can be used as an offensive term in this country, but it literally is most often used to mean cigarette.
Yeah.
But she told me, because I sometimes wonder, do they get as much money as I think, some of these far right shills, because do they sometimes get demonetized? And she doesn't give me any confidential information. She doesn't name channels or anything. She just gives me generalizations, but she says it's actually really common for politics channels to get demonetized a lot. She says I'm a bit of an outlier in that almost none of my stuff gets demonetized.
Yeah.
So actually, when you're looking at some of these far right ones, maybe they don't get as much money as I think, because she said it's actually very standard for political channels to get demonetized a lot.
Well, that's kind of good, I guess, in a way. One Angry Pagan, thank you very much for the super chat to make up for the demonetization. A lot of fear about right now, and Labour aren't helping. I would agree, and I would say, we're going to say, I need to have a button that says Labour comms, and it comes up on the screen. I would say it's to do with the communication strategy, which sucks balls. Like, it's awful.
Yes.
Why can't they just get it together, Phil?
I do not know. I could not tell you. The employment rights bill now is going to get passed through the Commons next week. Obviously, it's then the Lords are going to try and monkey about with it, so it's not like it's going to whistle through. But at the same time, Labour don't have to accept any amendments if they don't like them, because it's a massive part of their manifesto. The Salisbury Convention kicks in. It's got a huge public mandate, and it's very popular. They should be talking about it. I'm just going to have a quick look up, because I noticed Politics Joe talked to Andy McDonald, I think, about it. I didn't actually watch the video, but I noticed they put a video out of it. And it's ridiculous that Politics Joe, so they did this a day ago. They've only got 16,000 views on it. I mean, I know it's not the sexiest story with what's going on in the world right now. I only got 21,000, but that was a few days ago. Theirs might go up a bit. But it's a madness to me that the people who are trying, they got to interview an MP about it. I mean, not a minister.
Yeah.
So, but actually, let me look at the Labour Party YouTube channel to begin with. The people who are trying to promote Labour's good stuff is not Labour. I'm going to have a look here.
Yeah.
No, okay. The last on the Labour Party channel, their last video was 3 months ago.
3 months ago. Yeah, I know.
Now, right. Let's have a look on the Keir Starmer channel, because he does do the odd video there. There it is.
Fireside chats with Keir.
No, nothing.
Nothing
On it. So basically, if anyone has found out about what's going on with the Employment Right Bill, it's by watching my channel, which has had about 21,000 views, or the Politics Joe video, which has had so far about 16,000. But that usually a video takes a couple of days to burn out, so that could go higher still. But I mean, and it does show you, it's not easy. I would also suggest making it 25 minutes has not helped. But I've done it as a podcast, but
but fair enough. But Phil, if the Tories managed to actually hit a target ever, right? And not only did they hit the target, but they hit the target half a year earlier than they thought they would, like Labour have done with the waiting lists in the NHS.
Probably, yeah.
There'll be a fucking bank holiday. There'll be Union Jacks down the mall. There'll be fireworks. There'll be dancing. There'll be Morris dancers in the streets. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone would know. Everyone would know. But like with Labour, it's like, oh, yeah, we did that.
It's because the mainstream, I cannot get it through to them. The mainstream media will not help them. They want the Tories in power. They will not help them.
Yeah.
And, you know, so they have to do it themselves. They have to do it themselves. They can't just wait for an election, then ask a few TikTokers to like say, oh, vote Labour for us, will you? You know, they need to get their own messages out to build up that narrative. They don't understand the power of having a consistent drumbeat of their achievements. At the moment, like, I even saw a Labour MP, Ian Murray, Scottish MP. So he's talking, because obviously, you know, they're gearing up in Scotland as well. And, you know, he was talking about, oh, we've done this thing now, we've steadied the economy, now it is time to start delivering. And I was thinking, you're already delivering.
Yeah.
But you're not getting the message out. So you're constantly having to start from the stop. It's like you're constantly having false starts and having to go back to the starting line because you're not getting this regular drumbeat of we've done this, we've done this, we've done this. And yes, okay, you aren't noticing the changes yet because all this stuff is still passing through Parliament. The budget hasn't even been bloody implemented yet. And the laws are still passing through Parliament, but we have still done this, 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 and this. And like, if you tell people who care about it, that there are now in several police forces, and it'll be rolled out the rest of the country by the end of the year. That's England, by the way, because devolved. But, you know, you've now got domestic abuse specialists in police call centres in like half a dozen police forces in 999 rooms, right?
Yeah.
That is then going to help to make sure that domestic abuse calls are like taken seriously. It should be obvious about, you don't have to be clever or understand it. It's a deep level to understand cause and effect there. If you have domestic abuse specialists in a 999 call centre, then if you call 999 because you're in a domestic abuse situation, you're more likely to get a useful outcome.
Yeah.
So you can announce that. And yet, because, and it's not that they didn't try to announce it, but because they don't have this ready audience tuning into them every day, when they do put a video out, it gets no views.
No views.
No views at all.
Yeah.
Like even Keir Starmer, he took my advice the other week.
871 views.
He put out a cat video. It should have been brilliant. It's only got 4,000 views, which is more than his usual stuff. Because I did say a few weeks ago, I said he could just put cat videos out, be better. Then when it came to elections, say vote Labour and it'd do better. But he put out one cat video, got 4,000 views, is better than his usual stuff. And that was a short.
You've also got like when they try and do a video, they did that awful video on every level with the animals, the AI generated humanoid animals.
I don't remember that.
And they had this music behind it, and it was this song in Portuguese or Spanish, and the lyrics were really lurid, and it was just awful on like every level. Labour, they put out this video, and I couldn't believe it was real. I saw it and went, "This got to be a piss take." It was about a month ago. It was in February. They put out a video, and I'll send you a link to it because someone else. It was taken down, and they got into a bit of trouble about it. But they had like a lion and they had like a gazelle or a zebra or something. But it was like a humanoid form, and it was like telling you what Labour had managed to achieve in animal form for some reason. And it was eye-wateringly so appalling, Phil.
Do you know what? I was just watching a video today from like a, YouTube help thing, and they were trying to. It was a video aimed at people who are struggling to break through on YouTube. I always watch them anyway, just in case they've got something useful. And they were sort of explaining that, as a YouTuber, what you've got to do is you've got to have video editing skills, you've got to have script writing skills, you've got to have thumbnail design skills, you've got to be presentable on camera and all the usual. You've got to have all these skills. And of course, one of the reasons why people struggle on YouTube is they need to build these skills up.
Yeah.
Labour don't need someone with all those skills. They have a large communications team. They will have people with their technical skills. They will have people who are presentable on camera. They just need to think to themselves, we need someone who's good at writing engaging stuff. We need someone who's good at presenting the stuff in an engaging way. We need someone who can do the video stuff. And someone who's good at the styling, and someone who's good at... They don't even do thumbnails. Keir Starmer's channel does not even have thumbnails. That is proper.
I spent half my life
half-arsenate.
making thumbnails, Phil. You won't believe how much of my time I spend making bloody thumbnails. May look like they're thrown together, but they're really not. Super chats come in from Gareth T. Thank you, Gareth. Evening, Rehatton. One of Corbyn's acolytes tried to push a motion of no confidence because we refused to pass a deficit budget. Told her, shall I just book the taxis now then? This is in reference to, in the 1980s, Derek Atten's mob, his militant wing faction of Liverpool City Council, apparently went round in taxis giving P45s to people, or UB40s.
Exactly. Sacking people, basically.
Sacking people.
Sacking council workers.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Darren Christensen, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Politics Joe always seems a bit disjointed as they get distracted discussing random rubbish. But we do that on this channel, so I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at Politics Joe, and
if we're getting too off topic, you can pull us up on it live. It's not like Politics Joe where it's
I do sometimes wonder how they organise things, because they do have a team. It's not a solo thing. But yeah, if you look at their videos, most of them get very few views. I wouldn't be able to manage on. But then every now and then they get one that gets loads. But their overall views, actually, I could have a look at what their overall daily views is, but they pump out enough stuff so that they are noticed.
Yeah.
And also they have MPs who know about them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, the point is still that Labour, my point with Politics Joe is that they put out a video trying to promote. I would have had it much tighter, because I think people do look at the time, and if it's, that's an off-putting. They could have done the same thing in like 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah. In terms of the key points, key takeaways. Do it snappy. That's what Labour need to do. More like TLDR news style.
Yeah. TLDR is very good.
So they have a very good style for that sort of content. So Labour could do, and they could do a mixture. They could do, every week they could do something like a TLDR news type of thing without completely plagiarising, but something like that has that like engaging
with
snappy
infographics,
information,
animations, all that.
Yeah,
kind
exactly.
Of stuff.
All really good.
Yeah.
Without having to look corporate bullshit. And then they could do a few other things where they just have Keir Starmer and David Lammy talking about football and weaving into it political allegories or something like that. You can have someone who can basically write these things and just say, go with it. And get them to talk for an hour, and you just clip 5 minutes that was good.
Yeah,
and
that's what we're going to start doing on this channel, actually, is just clipping from the live shows. Chris C, thank you very much. He just put in private landlords should be outlawed. I just want to say yes. We should have decent, affordable housing for those who can't afford to purchase their own home. Couldn't agree more. Colin, well, I mean, I think the rules should be you cannot get a mortgage unless it's for a house that you're going to live in. If you're not going to live in it, that's it. No more buy-to-let. And also, Colin Baker says, is it true that Alexander Armstrong has criticised Labour's policy VAT on public schools? He has indeed. Here we go on the Telegraph. Alexander Armstrong says, I'm really angry about Starmer's private school talks.
Yeah, they're not letting that go.
Extremely poor. The words he used is he's extremely poor. And the picture that they've chosen to go with this story, he's lounging back on what looks like a chaise longue in a gentleman's smoking club or something. He's wearing a cravat, Phil. He's wearing a fucking cravat, and he's saying that he's extremely poor. This is Alexander Armstrong, one of 1,225 people on the private school mafia list. And he's like, oh, I'm so poor because of this VAT on the school. I'm like, oh, God, my heart bleeds.
Oh, God, he has as well.
I tell you what, why don't you try asking some fucking questions on your shit fucking question show, right? On your quiz show.
That is awful presentation.
Rather than just having a bit of banter with your fellow public school alumni bloody what's his name? Hugh Dennis. Sam, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Reform UK refers MP Rupert Lowe to the police. He's been referred to the police. Thanks for that. Thanks for the super chat and the info. But yeah, my God. MZ says Graham's video YouTube thumbnails stellar. Oh, thank you. I'm glad someone appreciates them because some of them I do quite quickly, but some of them honestly
Some of them
I will spend like a day fucking around.
Have you
tried? I've got an idea in my head, and then I'm like, I'll put it into AI and say, "Can you make this idea?" And it goes, "No," or it goes, "Okay."
Have you tried the YouTube tool?
Sorry,
the YouTube tool.
Ooh, no.
The YouTube have an AI thumbnail designer, which is actually really good. And the only reason I haven't used it myself, I'll tell you in a minute, but it is really good. And even if it's not perfect for what you want, you can use it as a template to then, because it does come up with some really good stuff. The only reason I haven't used it myself is because a little while ago I did an experiment, because you also have another tool on YouTube, as you don't know,
A and B,
where you can do test and compare. So you can give it like up to 3 different thumbnails, and it'll try a selection out of different people, and it'll tell you which one did best. And I tried that because I have I have a format for my thumbnails, so mine are really quick and easy to do. And although I'll give you another little tip in a minute, but I tried my standard thumbnail, and then I tried for a little period of time doing really spectacular thumbnails that were not a standard format.
Yeah.
And it made no difference. It made no difference. So I just stuck with the standard one. But I'll tell you one thing I have found that's quite good, because I've been using AI for something, what's it called? DeepSeek, is it the Chinese one?
Yeah.
And I've been feeding it my scripts and saying, come up with a tabloid style headline of no more than 8 words. So I've done that for a few videos. Yeah. That's and then you don't have to use it if you don't want to, but that's quite good.
No, I do that every day. So when I'm doing my videos now, I've got them all set up on ChatGPT. I've got to pay for an account, and I just say, I want title suggestions. Give me the blurb. Here's what I'm going to talk about. I put in a bunch of news stories and say, this is what I'm doing, and it gives me the blurb. And I also do a episode outline. So when I'm doing the live stuff now, because I moved to do it, I can just like freewheel it for half an hour on the morning shows. But since I've been doing the hour-long breakfast shows, I've been making sure they're a bit more structured. So it just puts them. All it does is give me bullet points, but it just allows me to be a bit more structured when I'm doing the actual show, and I don't finish the show and do that thing that you do after you've been for a job interview, where you go, "Oh shit, I was gonna say this, but I didn't say it." So that helps. But yeah, it makes the job a lot easier, and this is why I don't think that AI is necessarily going to take jobs. I think it's going to make things more efficient and make it so that people can be more productive. There
are some guardrails needed. There are some industries where people have got genuine concerns.
Yeah.
But by and large, what you generally find, first of all, like if you've got a situation as well where we don't have enough people to fill vacancies, but we want our economy to grow and we don't want immigration, we're actually going to have to use technology to make people more productive anyway. But also, but my worry with that,
twice as productive as we were in the 1970s, but our wages in real terms have halved.
That is the problem. And that's what I was just going to say. The problem is when you do that, how do you make sure, because alongside that, you've got to make sure that the money just doesn't float upwards.
Yeah.
Which is what's been happening over the last 4 years. Which is what's been happening,
yeah. Our parents' generation did not work as half as hard as we did. No. Even the ones working down the mine, Phil, apparently.
Well, no, that I will accept.
Not sure about that.
It's the only thing I have any sympathy for Lee Anderson, but he will have done our job and for not much pay. But apparently, even the other miners thought he was a dick. But that's hearsay. I don't actually know myself.
That's because he is a dick. But anyway, right, we'll wrap it up there. I'm going to be back at 9:30 tonight for the Friday Night Social. Please join us for that. It should be a lot of fun. And we've got a lot to talk about, obviously, with what's happening in the international sphere. But thank you very much, Phil, for coming on and allaying our fears a little bit about what's happening with.
Well, I don't want to do that. I honestly don't want to do that because I do not trust Labour not to make those cuts. It's just, I just have to take it with a pinch of salt, because the same people who are saying this are the same people who said the Employment Rights Bill was being watered down, and the same people who are constantly looking at ways of saying that Labour are, not doing this, or they're breaking this promise and stuff like that. And it's always, so far, touch wood, been bollocks. It may not be this time, because I am worried about the fact that politically, if you have to make cuts, anything to do with the DWP is an easy target. And we know that they have slated cuts for foreign aid, which is also short-sighted if it actually turns into a long-term thing. So I'm not saying I'm confident at all, and I have every sympathy for people who are worried now, because, I've said enough times, Labour, that's not helpful.
Yeah.
But I just wait until they've announced something, rather than reading something from someone who spends their entire life trying to work out ways to persuade people to get the Tories into power.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just wish they'd just come out and say what they're going to do, and just alleviate,
or at least set out the red lines.
Because at least then we know what we're going to do. Sarah Davis in the chat is saying, "I'm terrified of what Labour's going to do due to mental health illnesses." And I absolutely agree with Sarah there. I understand why she's feeling that way, because they're not being clear. They're not. It's like, I've got a button for when I do PMQs that says I've been absolutely clear, because it's one of those little tropes that politicians love to say. But Labour have not been clear, and they really need to be on this.
Just at the end, there is a super chat actually, but just at the end, apparently Rupert Lowe has now lost the party whip, because that would have been absolutely mad if they referred one of their MPs to the police themselves and didn't remove the whip. So they have done that. Yeah. So they've lost an MP. Yeah, they're now down to 4.
Sarah, can you get in touch with me, Sarah? Can you send me an email to if you go to grahamdavidhughes.com, there's a box at the bottom of the screen, and if you send me a message, I'll get in touch with you. I might give you a call actually. Look, whatever happens, we're going to help each other. That's the way it's going to be in this, in the future of this country, because we're not like America. We're really not. People don't have the stomach for the sort of shit that Trump is pulling over there. We really don't. And although
we've seen
it might seem like Reefuck are doing really well, they're actually not. And Nigel Farage is devastatingly unpopular with the vast majority of people in this country. They fucking hate him.
As he refuses to not, he's sort of trying to now at the moment imply that he's against Putin, but he's not. He refuses to criticise him. People are seeing that. Reform UK, they're not going to lose shitloads of votes because of his views of Putin, because when it comes down to it, when people vote in an election, they don't generally vote on foreign policy. But nonetheless, his views on Putin and Trump are wildly unpopular. Even Reform UK voters in that recent YouGov poll this week have massively swung against Donald Trump. They were the only group of voters where most of them backed Trump, and now they don't. Yeah. So Nigel Farage is just on Tommy Robinson, on Donald Trump. So he's the one at the moment who is failing the identity politics race, because all the people he backs, he's against Tommy Robinson, which, okay, that's a good thing for most people, but not for some of his core. He's backed Andrew Tate, he's backed Elon Musk, he's backed Donald Trump. That is a trio of wrong-uns as far as most of the public in this country.
Well, there's a horrific story today on the front cover of most of the newspapers about the fact that the crossbow murderer had watched videos of Andrew Tate.
Yeah, they always do things like this, of course, to try and link the two, and sometimes it's something quite innocent. We're going to end up with cucumber banned one day when we find out some murderer had a salad before they went out. But yeah, I mean, those 3 individuals are stunningly unpopular in this country.
Absolutely toxic.
And Nigel Farage, you can find videos quite easily of him praising all of them. Yeah. As well as Putin. He's praised Putin. He's worked for Putin.
Most admired.
Anyone who's worked on Russia Today has worked for Putin.
Yeah. Yeah, he was on there quite a lot, and he grew a tash. Gareth T says, once Trump finishes dominating the agenda, our long overdue chat on prisons at some point. Yes, Gareth, we definitely need to do that.
May take a few years, I have to warn you.
As soon as we can.
And He's also, quite chaotic.
It is. And also, we've got a super chat coming from Alec Barrett. Thank you very much, sir, for the £5 super chat. Oh, Ukraine are probably putting limpet mines on Russian oil tankers. That would probably be a really good idea. I'm going to get off now. So, Phil, thank you so much for coming on the show. Obviously, we're a bit later than we normally are. But like I say, we'll be back I'll be back at least in about 2.5 hours for the Friday night social. I'd love it if you would join us for that. Sarah, please get in touch and we'll have a natter. And for the rest of yous, just, hang in there because it's a lot. I know it's a lot. And if it's too much for you taking in all this politics stuff, please feel free to have a break. You don't owe us anything. Do you know what I mean? Just take care of yourself first before you can take care.
Oh yeah, I totally understand why. Like, there was a time some years ago when I used to be quite critical of people who didn't take an interest in politics. I didn't expect them to do it all the time because it's so important. But it's so toxic these days. It's bad for your mental health. And that's deliberate. I think that is deliberate. People are making politics deliberately toxic to try and get people to turn off, particularly on the right, because they have the money and they have the organisation and they just want to bombard you with messages during an election campaign and have you not think about it in between.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks for the chat. Thanks for the super chat. And give us a like on the way out. If you give us a like, that'll help the algorithm somehow. Feed it. It's ravenous. And until next time, I'll say thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.